last week, Friday, the Rivers State government demolished a set of buildings belonging to the Bayelsa State government on Akasa Street, Old GRA axis of Port Harcourt. Bayelsa State government has described the demolition as unlawful and a violation of court processes already served to Rivers State. Arise correspondent Ovieteme George reports.
A 2-week vacation notice is on number 5 and number 9 Akasa Street in the government-reserved area of Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital. Both buildings belong to the Bayelsa State government with a signboard indicating a proposed renovation.
The deputy governor came here himself. Later on, the governor came. They went around, checked the property, and confirmed that we were even given a quick notice to quit, but when they confirmed that we were civil servants, they now said they will relocate us and they will renovate the place. So that's what we've been waiting for, and I think they are in the process.
However, a 2-week vacation notice from the Rivers State government expires with the Bayelsa civil servants making frantic efforts to move their property out of the building before the commencement of demolition.
I'm a civil servant, I'm not a politician. I don't really know what the Rivers State government is doing about it, but what we know is that you can't just forcefully come and take somebody's property. The laws are there.
I know for sure that this Bayelsa State government is about to renovate this place. So obviously we would have parked, but that parking would have been at our own time because we would have taken time to pack our things and park them properly. But with this forceful ejection from the Rivers State government.
On the 11th of May, an excavator moved into the area but began demolishing the property on Friday, the 12th of May. People in the area can only watch as the excavator slowly knocks down the buildings, attracting the condemnation of the Bayelsa State government.
Those properties were lawfully given to Bayelsa State during the asset sharing. In the vested deed is contained clearly that number 5 and 9 Akasa Street belong to Bayelsa State government. Bayelsa State government, on getting information, quickly ran to Supreme Court, got the processes served on Rivers State, and then even the Attorney General of Rivers State confirmed the receipt of the notices of the court processes. Despite the receipt of the court processes, the government is going about demolishing the properties belonging to Bayelsa State government. No matter the political vendetta he has within him against his own sister state, that shouldn't come at this material time when the governor is in a sorrowful mood. Bayelsa State government will use all appropriate means, lawful means, to recover its property.
Your Excellency and brother governor, you're welcome.
This development suggests that there may be little love lost between the governors of Rivers and Bayelsa states, as both men have not been seen together in recent times, and not even at the funeral service of Governor Doyediri's father, which had in attendance Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, former Presidents Olusegun Obasanjo and Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, former governors and other distinguished personalities. It appears the laughters may have ceased, at least for now. Ovieteme George, Arise News.
Well, joining us now on the morning show is Esau Andrew, Commissioner for Lands and Housing, Bayelsa State. Good morning and welcome to the morning show.
Good morning.
Well, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Well, we've seen that report by our correspondent in Bayelsa State. But you will recall that the Rivers State government in 2021 served the Bayelsa State government a notice of renovation. So we've been on this matter since 2021. What went wrong? We would like you to tell us. And then secondly, it appears there is a dispute now between Bayelsa State and Rivers State. Is Bayelsa State considering going to the Supreme Court which has the original jurisdiction to resolve disputes among states, beyond explaining to the public on television? Are you going to take legal action and pursue it all the way to the Supreme Court?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, clearly. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, to start with, the ownership of number 5 and 9 Acasa Street, Old GRO, is not in doubt. The properties clearly belongs to Bayelsa State government. Clearly. Now, actually, with what you asked, there was a notice served on Bayelsa State on August 10th, 2021. Based on that notice, immediately the ministry replied the readiness of the renovation of those properties and then sought for extension. And then the information was conveyed to His Excellency Senator Doye Diri. And Senator Doye Diri equally called His Excellency Governor Wike, even went to Rivers State and then visited the two properties. We were all there, and then seeing how the properties actually are, he equally directed the immediate renovation. The process has been on, the renovation process has been on. There are some legal documents of permit for renovation that we sought from Rivers State government. All those processes are on. But when His Excellency Senator Doye visited His Excellency Governor Wike and then visited the site, in fact, that notice was in a way waived. There shouldn't have been issued a notice to be served on Rivers State. It's not just a private tenant issue. It's a government ownership issue. So when both governors, they were very close friends. So when he visited Wike and visited the site, that notice was in a way waived. By the conduct of Governor Wike, it was waived. So Bayelsa State government take normal means to ensure that the properties are renovated. That cause was on. Now, since 2021 up until 2022 lapsed until 2023, on the 19th of April, that was when a 14 days notice was served. You could now see that within the period, even Wike himself has already admitted that that notice has been waived. He was no longer acting in maybe compelling Bayelsa State government to renovate those properties anymore. That was the truth about it. So actually, where the issue went wrong, nobody can decipher because they were very close, and just for sudden period, there was some rifts that we couldn't even decipher. But on the 19th of April, this 14 days notice was served on Bayelsa State government. Immediately on the 20th, the next day, I replied His Excellency, I replied the letter straight to the Ministry of Land and Survey because it was signed, that 14 days notice was signed by the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Lands and Survey. So it was replied straight away on the 20th. And that letter was equally replied back again on the 2nd of May. That letter was replied. And then if you will see the content of the reply, if I read it, you will now see it clearly, that in furtherance to our letter reference MLS/PS/2023/01 of 19th April 2023, that is referring to the 14 days notice letter, 19th April 2023, on the above subject matter. The above subject matter is Bayelsa State properties along Acasa Street, Golf Course Layout, Old GRA, Port Harcourt, notice to vacate properties. That is the subject matter. Now they replied that we acknowledge your letter through the Permanent Secretary requesting for extension of time and assuring us that work shall commence as soon as possible on the properties. This as soon as possible is the most important word here. That is, I have replied, as directed by His Excellency Senator Doye Diri, that work will commence immediately, and then they have taken notice of that. Take a look at the second paragraph. Now they replied in the second paragraph that His Excellency, the Governor of Rivers State, has further directed we inform you that your request for extension of time is not granted and insist you vacate the properties as they deface the ecstatic look of the environment. Now, another very important question, the ecstatic look of the environment. What is the ecstatic look of that old GRA that those two properties has defaced? Now, it called to question, if you and I, Ruben, if we go to River State and then take a cursory analysis of the entire scenery, would you now say that only those properties belonging to Bayelsa State that defaced that serenity? It is actually so disturbing and very unfortunate that a very flimsy excuse will be taken to demolishing government properties. Now, let us take aback that in 2021, when His Excellency Governor Doyediri actually visited the site, the two properties, he has already directed that those properties be renovated immediately.
All right.
Now, is there anything that actually borders on Governor Wike to rush to demolish those properties at the twilight of his administration? I will not even say twilight, at the dusk of his administration. It is about exiting power. So what actually is the issue that these properties will be so rushed to be demolished?
All right.
It is appalling. Honestly speaking, these documents call to question why the rush to demolish. Now, immediately after this reply, on the
Mr. Andrew,
on the
Mr. Andrew, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, please don't forget to also respond to
Yes, I
the
can hear you.
second question with regards to next steps.
Yes,
in terms
I
of
will.
legal actions, would you go to the Supreme
Yes.
Court?
Yes, I will. Yes. Now, this one, the 2nd May, the letter was replied to us signed by the Chief of Staff of River State. He personally signed it, that he has been directed by the governor. That is the statement. He has been directed by the governor that the occupants be vacated. And then it says 7-day notice. Now, if the first notice served on Bayelsa State in 2021, in a way, by the conduct of the governor of River State has been vitiated, definitely the 19th April 14 days notice and the May 2nd 7 days notice has no basis legally to stand to have warranted River State government to have demolished those properties. They have no basis whatsoever, because that first notice has been overtaken by that cordiality the two governors shared, and then that letter was waived. His conduct has waived it. So ordinarily, he couldn't have, in a way, went ahead to have demolished those properties. Now, I am so worried based on the rush for Wike to have demolished those properties. Honestly, there are 3 rhetoric questions that come to mind.
Okay.
Is there, at this kind of period, is there a gold mine or crude oil deposit in number 5 and 9 Akasa Street that have warranted Wike to have rushed to demolish those properties? That call to question. Or is there any credence or credibility that the demolition of those properties will be attached to Governor Wike as his leaving office?
All right.
Or thirdly, that is it actually, because they were very close, is it actually a political vendetta or a payback to Senator Doyediri? Is it? So if it is actually a political vendetta against the serving governor, the sitting governor of Bayelsa State, Senator Doyediri, then would you now say that those properties belong to His Excellency Senator Doyediri? That is clearly a lapse on the parts and the reasoning of His Excellency Governor Wike, because the properties belong to Bayelsa State, not Senator Doyediri.
All right, Mr. Andrew.
His Excellency Senator Doyediri holds those properties in trust for the people. Now, okay, to the second question.
Yes. Actions.
Hello?
Legal action.
Yes, to the second question. Actually, we have already approached Supreme Court. And then the notices has already been served on River State government. And then the Attorney General of River State has already acknowledged the receipt of those notices. That we've already said before. Now, when you have received notices like that, court processes, Supreme Court notices, there is no way that you should have even proceeded in taking the action. It's like a prima facie evidence of stay. There is no way that Rivers State would have even commenced with the demolition. If there's something fishy underneath, they wouldn't have even commenced ab initio the demolition process. Honestly, His Excellency Senator Doidiri is a peace-loving man.
Okay.
And then his disposition is very clear to everybody. And he is going to apply all legal means to ensure that all properties belong to Bayelsa State.
Okay, so Mr. Andrew, let me ask a question.
Including that of 5 and 9 Acasa Street.
All right, Mr. Andrew,
Yeah.
you said in 2021, that was the first time this issue was brought up in terms of these buildings belonging to Bayelsa State defacing and causing a public nuisance in River State. So you were aware 2 years ago. Why didn't the Bayelsa State government take action since 2021 up until now? You even stated that Governor Doyodiri visited these two places to view. What was the cause of the delay? At least you had enough time before the April deadline that was given to you, or April notice that was given to you. Why didn't the Bayelsa government act?
Yes, thank you. Just like as I explained, the two governors actually met, and then His Excellency equally visited the two properties and then directed for the renovation. Now, to renovate properties actually take some time. It's not something that you will just go immediately. There is the process of the architectural redesigning and then sorting for permit from River State government. Those processes have already commenced, and there are some delay even on the parts of the issuance of permits to Bayelsa State government. But the approach Bayelsa State government actually employed was to employ the service of investors who can actually come in and then renovate those properties and then lease same for revenue generation purposes. So those processes are on. And then even when the investor that came last, that the Bayelsa State government was about to employ its service, was to mobilize to say that was when, just about 2 days, that was when this 14 days notice was served on us. So the process was actually on, despite the fact that the period was long, the process was actually on. And then you can equally recall there are some incidences, including flood where Bayelsa State can no longer access River State, neither that of Delta. So we are landlocked. Those incidences were equally there. So one bureaucratic bottleneck and the other actually created some delay.
Mr. Andrew,
Yes.
two things.
Yeah.
At first, I'd like to ask you, Bayelsa State, if my memory serves me well, was created in 1996. That means officially this asset was handed over to
Yes.
Bayelsa State in 1996. How do your state manage its assets? And how did you leave that asset to be able to get to that level that another state will want to pull it down? How do you manage your asset over the years? Because that's a Bayelsa State asset. And even if your civil servants were living in there,
Yes.
there ought to be a better condition than what we saw in those pictures. That building has not been painted for a while. It's not well kept. So how does your state manage your asset, number one? Number two, you said it took 2 years to get permits from the River State government as regards renovation. Is it you are saying it takes that long to get permits, or you were negotiating with investors? Which one should we take? Thirdly, are you going to say because of the cordiality of both governors, the law should not take its course? Are you going to say because they are close to Governor Doyodiri, then Governor Wike that governs the state should not be able to stand firm and the law take its course in the state? Is that what you're saying?
No. To start from the last one, that is not what I actually meant. That the law must take its course. But for law to take its course, the normal process, the legal normal process has to be followed, has to be obeyed. That is what we are saying. Now, you served the first notice, and then the two parties actually met and then have a cordial understanding. that has already vitiated the first notice. That is what I'm trying to say. Now, secondly, even if you are to carry on with the 14 days notice, Bayelsa State government has approached the Supreme Court and then has already served the processes on you. It's another very important legal position that Bayelsa State government has taken. Now, it is now your duty to now obey the court process, that the court has to sit for you to now explain your position, why you intend to go on with the said vacation and demolition. So that is the legal process. So Bayelsa State government is so very dare to obeying the law. So Bayelsa State government has done the needful. It is the duty of the Rivers State government to equally reciprocate same by obeying the rule of law, by not going ahead with the demolition until the matter is heard. That is the position I'm trying to explain. Now, the properties themselves, actually, yes, those properties are lawfully Bayelsa State government properties, and then the Bayelsa State properties are well managed from inception during the time of Alamesia till date. Those properties were well managed. It's not just only Rivers State that Bayelsa State government has properties. Bayelsa State government has properties in Lagos State, in Abuja, in several other areas, and then those properties has been managed.
Wait a minute.
Sometimes you will equally see some of the properties.
Mr. Andrew, wait a minute.
Yes.
If those properties I'm seeing on picture, are those the ones you're saying were well managed? If those properties were well managed, why would they need renovation? If those properties were well managed?
No.
Yes.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Properties belonging to Bayelsa State are not just only in Rivers State. There are other properties in other states too.
Renovation. They were not well managed. They were not well managed,
yes,
obviously. Yes, that's why it needs renovation. So why are you saying they were well managed?
State government, yes, on the assumption of His Excellency Senator Doye Diri, a committee was set up to ensure that all Bayelsa State properties are identified and then put to proper use. The committee has been on up until this moment. The committee is still on. There are some properties that persons has even tried to take over, and then there is the move for perfection of documents. Series of things are on ground. So the committee has gone far in identifying all Bayelsa State properties, including 5 and 9 Akasa Street. But the management of the properties, some have been with some investors, managed by some investors, while some are actually directly under the control of the government. And then on assumption, when the governor now got the wind of these properties, the state of the properties, he directed for the renovation. But the governor is a very decent man, very peaceful man. So he immediately directed for the renovation of those properties. That's what I'm saying. So we are now counting the period when the directive was given for the renovation of those properties. That is the reality.
Is it because you did not get investors that will help you renovate this property? Is it because you didn't get investors that will help you renovate, or you were waiting for permits to renovate? From whose pocket was the money going to come out in the first place?
No.
The state government or investor?
No, no, it is purely a directive from His Excellency the Governor. It's purely a directive of the governor, because the governor always intends to generate revenue, not just to spend government taxpayers' money. To generate revenue, investors has to come in, renovate to standard, and then lease same to generate revenue. That was the directive.
Well, Mr. Andrew, let me comment.
And then the government aspect is to ensure that the permits are obtained.
If you can hear me. Look, there is a human dimension to this. In those properties, Bayelsa State government had civil servants living in those properties. We've seen a video showing those civil servants packing their loads out of the building. The Rivers State government having concluded that those structures were defacing the GRA in Port Harcourt. Now, as the Bayelsa State government taking any measure to relocate those civil servants, to pay attention to their welfare, now that they have been pushed out of their accommodation in Port Harcourt, could you share with us what steps have been taken in that regard?
Yes. The moment the 14 days notice was served on us, immediately the governor released fund for all the staffers of the liaison office to be relocated to personal rental homes, and then the fund has already been released. To the liaison officer, Mr. Duma. It has already been released to the liaison officer, Mr. Duma. I believe today Duma will get the receipt of that fund today. He is going to get the release of that fund. So the staffers are, in fact, the concern of the governor is to ensure that the staffers are safe and then they are in a safe environment before the government will know and then take the appropriate legal step to recovering the property.
So
yes, that has been done.
Since the demolition and the displacement, those civil servants have been left to their own devices. What you are saying is that they will get the money today, when they get the money today, they will start looking for alternative accommodation. Did the state government try to put them in hotels?
No, we are constantly in touch with them.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What is the arrangement to accommodate them, to help them?
Yes. You know that we have other properties in Rivers State, not just only those two properties. And then the liaison officer was directed to ensure that the staff are kept in other alternative areas, pending when funds will be given to them for them to relocate to their personal areas until those properties are properly renovated. That aspect actually has been taken care of. They are in a good place because we have other properties. Like even in Estikoli, we have other properties there where the civil servants there can stay. So the Bayelsa State government is actually in touch with them. The liaison officer has been running up and down, and they are in safe place. They are in safe place. That one, there is no doubt about it. The governor is actually so concerned.
I hope you are telling us the truth.
His staffers are in good place.
I hope you are telling us the truth.
Definitely, I am telling you the truth. That is the absolute truth. Yes.
No, I hope it's the truth because our correspondents will go and talk to those civil servants to be sure that in whatever quarrel has erupted between Bayelsa State and Rivers State, that it's not the civil servants that are suffering for no reason of theirs.
Yes.
We will find out.
Yes, definitely. They have been taken care of. The concern is there. And I will equally meet with them within this week when they've gotten their personal places. That one, no doubt about it. We have that serious concern to ensuring that they are in safe places.
Okay, so Mr. Andrew, you say that you have other properties in River State where you relocated your staff members, correct?
Yes, there are other properties that we have that we've already. I personally directed the liaison officer, Mr. Duma, to ensure that the displaced staff are relocated to those other areas in the interim, just within a 2-3 days period, when the funds will get to them for them to move to their person. And then they too themselves, they've already identified where they will actually go and then make their payment and then stay interimly.
Okay. I ask this because earlier on, when you were looking at the background as to why the governor of River State would take these actions, you had said that perhaps it was a personal vendetta, especially because their relationships, as the two governors' relationship has been soured. So I wonder why it was just Accommodation Street properties that he demolished, if it was not indeed because of what he had mentioned 2 years ago of it causing a public nuisance. And so taking away that sentiment that he was doing it out of personal vendetta, could that be, could that come into play? Because if he wanted to do that, then he could have demolished a number of buildings belonging to the Bayelsa State government in River State.
Yes, why would you do that if the other buildings are in good shape? And then you cannot even go ahead to do that if you have not made a service of notice in respect of any building. Because they are going ahead with the demolition basically because they conclude that the service of notice in 2021 suffices. That is why they went ahead with this demolition. That is the truth about it. Right, so what if those other properties are in good condition?
Okay, so it's a bad condition that's caused this demolition. Thank you so much, Mr. Esau Andrew, for your time, Commissioner for Lands and Housing in Bayelsa State.